us getting photos together with her boyfriend. Absolutely.
I'm really speechless right now. I'll try not to forget anything. I want to start with Elena. I want to congratulate you on incredible run, incredible tennis. Congrats to you.
Shocking twist. Tennis dynasty crumbles as unknown underdog destroys the fame of world number one Aryna Sabalenka, the insane story behind the takeover. What's happening? Court Vision Plus family. You need to sit down for this one because the tennis world just got absolutely flipped on its head, and nobody saw it coming. We're talking about a seismic shift that's shaking the very foundations of professional tennis. This isn't just another upset. This is a full-blown cultural revolution happening right before our eyes at the Australian Open 2026, and the ripple effects are going to change this sport forever. Picture this. You're Aryna Sabalenka, the undisputed queen of hard courts, the Belarusian powerhouse who's been absolutely demolishing everyone in her path. You're ranked number one in the world. You've got the game, the power, the precision, the entire package. You walk into Melbourne Park expecting your coronation, your victory lap, another trophy to add to your already glittering collection. The media has already written their headlines about your dominance. The bookmakers have you as the overwhelming favorite. Everything is going according to plan. And then, out of absolutely nowhere, a 20-year-old from the Philippines shows up and doesn't just steal your thunder, she hijacks the entire tournament, turns the spotlight completely away from you, and becomes the most talked about athlete in Australia. Not just in tennis. In all of sports. This is the Alexandra Ela story, and it's the kind of phenomenon that only comes around once in a generation. We're witnessing something that transcends rankings, transcends trophies, transcends everything we thought we knew about how fame and popularity work in professional tennis. Because here's the crazy part, Sabalenka is out there playing flawless, championship-level tennis, doing everything right, executing her game plan to perfection, and yet the crowds, the media attention, the social media buzz, the merchandise sales, everything that matters in the modern sports economy has shifted completely to this young Filipino sensation who wasn't even on most people's radar a year ago. Let me paint you a picture of just how insane this situation has become on the ground in Melbourne. We're getting reports from inside Melbourne Park that are absolutely mind-blowing. When Sabalenka plays on center court, the prestigious Rod Laver Arena with all its thousands of seats and corporate boxes and VIP sections, there are actual empty seats visible in certain sections. Meanwhile, 50 yards away on Court 6, a venue that's supposed to hold maybe 1,500 people maximum, there are literally 5,000 fans trying to crush their way in to catch a glimpse of Alexandra Ela. Security had to call in riot control. People are climbing on trash cans, hanging from fences, screaming themselves hoarse, creating an atmosphere that's more like a soccer match in Manila than a polite tennis tournament in Melbourne. The numbers coming out of the broadcast data are even more shocking. During one session, Sabalenka was playing a competitive match on the main televised court, prime-time coverage, everything you'd expect for the world number one. At the exact same time, Ela was doing warm-up drills on an outer court. Not even a real match, just practice shots. And the viewership numbers across Southeast Asia and the Pacific region were 40% higher for Ela's warm-ups than for Sabalenka's actual competitive match. Let that sink in for a second. A practice session outdrew a championship-level contest featuring the world's top-ranked player. That's not just popularity, that's a full-blown cultural movement. So who exactly is Alexandra Ela? And how did she become this unstoppable force of nature that's rewriting the rules of tennis celebrity? She's a 20-year-old lefty from the Philippines, a country with virtually zero tennis infrastructure or tradition. She trained at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Spain, absorbing that signature Spanish clay court mentality, that never say die fighting spirit that Nadal himself embodied throughout his legendary career. She's not the biggest player, she's not the most powerful, she's not breaking any records for serve speed or ground stroke velocity. What she has is something that can't be taught, can't be bought, and can't be replicated. She has heart. She has the ability to make every single point feel like life or death. She plays with this tactical brilliance, using angles and spin and placement to neutralize opponents who are physically superior. And most importantly, she carries the hopes and dreams of over 100 million Filipinos on her shoulders every single time she steps on court. The nickname that's emerged for her tells you everything you need to know about the scope of this phenomenon. They're calling her the Era. Not an era, the Era. Like she's not just a player, she's an entire epic in tennis history. She's the dividing line between before and after. Before Ela, Southeast Asian tennis was an afterthought, a curiosity, something that occasionally produced a player who might win a round or two before fading back into obscurity. After Ela, we're looking at a complete transformation of the sport's global landscape. Kids all across Asia are picking up tennis rackets for the first time because they finally see someone who looks like them, someone from their part of the world, competing at the highest level and not just competing, but capturing the imagination of the entire tennis world. This is the Tiger Woods effect. This is the Serena Williams revolution. This is what happens when an athlete transcends their sport and becomes a symbol of possibility for an entire demographic that felt excluded from the elite levels of competition. And it's happening at lightning speed. At just 20 years old, barely out of her teenage years, Ela is already shifting global economic forces. The major sportswear companies, Nike, Adidas, Wilson, all the big players, are reportedly engaged in absolutely astronomical bidding wars behind the scenes to secure her endorsement. They understand that signing Alexandra Ela isn't just about getting an athlete to wear their logo. It's about gaining access to billions of potential customers across Asia who are suddenly, for the first time ever, passionately interested in tennis because of her. Let's talk about what's actually happening back in the Philippines because it's absolutely unprecedented. When Ela plays, the entire country stops. Traffic in Manila, one of the most congested cities on earth, literally disappears because everyone is either at home or in bars or restaurants watching the match. Universities cancel classes. Professors project the matches on big screens in lecture halls. Corporate productivity flatlines. Government offices go quiet. This is the same level of national obsession that the Philippines experienced during Manny Pacquiao's boxing prime, except this is for a sport that has virtually no cultural roots in the country. Boxing and basketball are the traditional Filipino sports, the games that kids grow up playing in the streets. Tennis was always seen as this elite, expensive, inaccessible sport for the wealthy. Ela is single-handedly changing that perception, proving that Filipinos can compete and excel at the highest levels of any sport if given the opportunity. And the economic impact extends far beyond the Philippines. Tourism officials in Melbourne are reporting an additional $15 million in revenue over just a 2-week period, purely from Asian visitors who've flown in specifically to watch Ela play. These aren't tennis tourists, the traditional fans who attend Grand Slams year after year. These are families, casual sports fans, people who've never watched a professional tennis match in their lives, who are making the pilgrimage to Melbourne because they want to witness history. They want to be able to tell their grandchildren that they were there when Alexandra Ela took the tennis world by storm. Now let's circle back to Aryna Sabalenka, because this entire situation has to be absolutely surreal from her perspective. Here's a woman who has done everything right. She's worked her entire life to reach the pinnacle of her sport. She's overcome injuries, she's refined her game to near perfection, she's mentally tougher than almost anyone on tour. She walks into the Australian Open as the defending champion and the heavy favorite, and by all technical measures, she's playing brilliant tennis. She's crushing opponents, hitting winners from impossible angles, serving with power and precision. On paper, this should be her tournament, her moment, her coronation. But fame and popularity don't follow logic. They don't care about rankings or statistics or who deserves the attention. Sabalenka plays like a machine, efficient and ruthless and seemingly unstoppable, and that's actually working against her in terms of public engagement. When your victories feel inevitable, when you make it look easy, casual fans lose interest. There's no drama, no tension, no underdog story to root for. Sabalenka is so good that watching her feels like watching a predetermined outcome play out. Meanwhile, Ela embodies everything that makes sports compelling. She's the underdog, the fighter, The player who has no business competing at this level based on her size and her ranking and her country's tennis infrastructure, yet there she is, battling giants and winning hearts. The contrast became painfully obvious during one of Sabalenka's recent press conferences. She's sitting there, having just won a match in dominant fashion, and the reporters in the room are barely asking her about her own performance. Instead, they're peppering her with questions about Ela's fan support, about the atmosphere at the tournament, about whether she's noticed the shift in attention. You could see in her face that it stung. This is supposed to be her press conference, her moment to discuss her path through the tournament, and instead she's effectively being asked to comment on someone else's popularity. She handled it with grace, smiled through the awkwardness, gave diplomatic answers, but the subtext was clear. The queen is watching the crown slip away, and there's nothing she can do about it because this isn't something you can fix with better serves or more powerful ground strokes. This is about connection, about inspiration, about capturing the public imagination, and those things can't be manufactured or trained. Let me break down what's actually happening on court with Ela, because the hype would be meaningless if she wasn't backing it up with real performance. Her game has evolved dramatically over the past 6 months. The weaknesses that used to hold her back, the inconsistent serve, the tendency to get tight in big moments, those issues have largely disappeared. Her left-handed serve has become a legitimate weapon, not because of raw power, but because of placement and spin. She's learned to slice it wide on the advantage side, pulling opponents off the court and creating angles for winners, a classic lefty advantage that she's now exploiting masterfully. It's very reminiscent of young Rafael Nadal, that same strategic use of spin and court geometry to overcome physical limitations. But the most important development has been mental. We saw it in her match against a seeded American opponent who was heavily favored. Ela dropped the first set, found herself in exactly the kind of high-pressure situation where younger players typically crack. Instead of wilting, instead of getting tight and playing scared, she actually elevated her game. She fed off the energy of the crowd, welcomed the pressure, smiled through the adversity, and systematically dismantled her opponent over the next 2 sets. That kind of mental fortitude can't be taught. It's instinctual, it's internal, and it's the difference between good players and great ones. Sabalenka, for all her physical gifts and technical excellence, has shown vulnerability when crowds turn against her or when the pressure reaches extreme levels. Ela seems to thrive in chaos, seems to play her best tennis when the stakes are highest and the noise is loudest. The tactical maturity she's displaying is honestly shocking for someone so young. She's not trying to overpower opponents. She knows she can't match the raw strength of players like Sabalenka. Instead, she's exploiting every weakness, using heavy topspin to push power players back behind the baseline, deploying delicate drop shots when opponents are expecting pace, mixing up her shot selection to keep rivals off balance. She's playing chess while some of her opponents are playing checkers, using superior strategy to overcome superior athleticism. It's beautiful to watch if you understand the nuances of the game, and it's creating these incredible highlight moments that go viral on social media and expand her fan base even further. The nickname the era carries massive implications that go way beyond just one player's career. It represents a fundamental shift in the sport's power dynamics. For over 100 years, tennis has been dominated by Europe, North America, and Australia. Those regions had the infrastructure, the coaching, the facilities, the tradition. Players from other parts of the world could occasionally break through, but they were exceptions, outliers, not the norm. What Ela is doing is demonstrating that the old monopoly is finished. You don't need to come from a country with generations of tennis tradition. You don't need to fit a certain profile or match a certain demographic. All you need is talent, determination, access to quality coaching, and the mental strength to handle the pressure of elite competition. Let me wrap this up by zooming out to the biggest possible picture, because what we're witnessing goes beyond tennis, beyond sports, beyond entertainment. We're watching in real time how global power dynamics are shifting, how the Western monopoly on cultural production and celebrity is being challenged, how representation in international spaces is being democratized. For over a century, the heroes and icons of global sports were almost exclusively from Europe and North America. That's changing rapidly across every major sport, from soccer to basketball to tennis, and Ela is both a product of that change and an accelerant of it. The young people watching her in Manila and Jakarta and Ho Chi Minh City aren't just learning about tennis. They're learning that people like them can be global superstars, that their stories matter, that the international stage isn't closed off to them. That's a profound lesson that will echo far beyond sports into business, entertainment, technology, politics, every sphere of human endeavor. When you grow up seeing yourself reflected in the icons of your generation, you believe more is possible. You aim higher. You take risks you otherwise wouldn't take. Ela is providing that representation for hundreds of millions of young Asians, and the ripple effects of that will be felt for decades. This is why the story transcends the question of who wins the Australian Open trophy. Sabalenka might cut down the nets, she might give the champion's speech, she might add another accolade to her resume. But Ela has already won something more valuable and more lasting. She's won the hearts and minds of a generation. She's changed the trajectory of tennis in an entire region. She's proven that the old hierarchies can be disrupted, that fame and influence aren't predetermined by geography or infrastructure or traditional power structures. That's a victory that no trophy can match, a legacy that will outlast any individual tournament result. So where do we go from here? The next few days will tell us a lot about Ela's immediate future in this tournament. Can she keep winning? Can she handle the pressure of increased expectations? Can she maintain her level when opponents start studying her game and developing specific game plans to neutralize her strengths? These are the questions that will determine whether this Australian Open becomes a launchpad to sustained success or a peak that she spends years trying to recapture. But honestly, those questions feel almost secondary to the larger phenomenon we've already witnessed. The tennis world has been fundamentally altered over the past 2 weeks in Melbourne. The attention economy has shifted. The marketing priorities have changed. The infrastructure will have to adapt. The broadcast strategies will be reimagined. And at the center of all of it is a 20-year-old from the Philippines who showed up with a racket, a dream, and the hopes of a nation on her shoulders. Whether she leaves Melbourne with a trophy or not, she's already accomplished something that will be studied and celebrated and remembered long after the trophy presentation fades from memory. For Aryna Sabalenka, this has to be a moment of reckoning. She's learning the hard lesson that being the best doesn't always mean being the most beloved, that dominance doesn't guarantee adoration, that the public's attention follows narratives and emotions more than rankings. Her engagement news should be front-page material. Her tennis excellence should be the story everyone is discussing. Instead, she's watching someone else's story dominate the headlines, experiencing firsthand how quickly the spotlight can shift even when you're doing everything right. It's unfair in some ways, but it's also just the reality of how fame works in the modern era. You can be technically superior and still lose the popularity contest, and there's not really anything you can do about it except keep being excellent and hope that eventually the pendulum swings back. As we close out this deep dive into the phenomenon that's taken over Melbourne, I want you to remember what you're witnessing. This isn't just sports. This is history. This is a moment that will be referenced for decades as the turning point when tennis became truly global, when Asia emerged as a tennis superpower, when a new generation of fans discovered the sport through an unlikely hero who reflected their own identity and aspirations. 20 years from now, there will be documentaries about this moment. There will be books written about the Ela effect. There will be players from all across Asia citing her as their inspiration for picking up a racket. The era isn't just a nickname. It's a promise. It's a declaration that things have changed permanently, that the old order is finished, that new powers have emerged. Whether Ela herself becomes a multi-slam champion or not, whether she reaches number 1 or plateaus in the top 20, she's already fulfilled that promise. The era has begun, and tennis will never be the same. Before we sign off, I want to hear from you, the Court Vision Plus family. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are you Team Ela or Team Sabalenka? Do you think this hype is justified or overblown? What does this mean for the future of tennis? Let's get a conversation going because this story is far from over and your perspectives matter. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most fascinating sports stories of the year, smash that like button. If you want to stay updated on all the developments as this situation continues to unfold, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Share this video with anyone who loves sports, loves underdog stories, or just appreciates witnessing history in the making. This is Court Vision Plus, bringing you the stories that matter, the analysis that goes deeper, and the perspectives you won't find anywhere else. Until next time, keep watching, keep learning, and keep being part of the conversation. Peace out.
Globally, do you have a sense of, like, sorry, I'm not trying to give you an ego here, but like if you look at the numbers on YouTube for like the pre-tournament press conferences, how much people watch them? Yours is at like 170.